Should you build a PC now? I'm going to tell you everything you have to know about the current GPU situation, CPU situation, as well as other parts that will be part of your build and what's good to get right now. So let's get started. Hey guys, so today's video is sponsored by CDKDeals, genuine CD keys, not only for software like Windows 10, and we also have a coupon code where you're going to be able to get this for under $20. What you first want to do is go and sign up for an account just to make sure all of your information is in there. You can go and search for, it's going to be the Windows 10 Pro. It's OEM, very easy process. You add it to your cart and you're going to see that you're going to have the option to put a coupon code. You're going to put in CC20. That's my coupon code, and you're going to get 20% off. And then you just go through the regular checkout process. Basically, you just have to go in Windows. I'm going to show you how to do this now. You enter the CD key in there, and you'll see it's going to work without any issue. And for the price that you're paying, I really think it's a fantastic deal to get a real, genuine, smooth working copies of Windows 10. Hey guys, Tiago with Classical Technology here. They say every time you subscribe and smash that like button, you get a little bit closer to building the PC of your dreams. All right, so I like to do these videos every so often. Recently, I haven't done them too much because there really hasn't been much to talk about. The primary issue here, of course, are going to be availability and pricing of the Nvidia GPUs as well as the AMD GPUs to a certain extent. The CPU situation more or less has been good for the last few months with a lot more stock and availability, specifically a Ryzen 5000. So today we're going to answer the question, should you build your PC now? What are your options? What does the market look like? Are there any cool things that you should know about or any special considerations? So that hopefully will help you sort of adjust in the current situation and see if you should still wait a little bit longer or build something right now. So first, let's talk about the easier stuff, and then we'll get to the GPU in the end because that is really the main focal point of pretty much everyone's PC build. So the number one thing, let's talk about the things that people aren't really too worried about. First, we're going to talk about like power supplies and your cases. In terms of the power supply, you pretty much have free reign to choose whatever you want. Of course, I always recommend a nice high quality power supply, something from like EVGA or Be Quiet, even the Main Gear power supply. Those are all ones that I've used recently and really used them to benchmark and run various high performing GPUs. And if you're getting something like an RTX 3000 series GPU, like a 3070 or 3080, for example, for an RTX 3080, you should be at least at a 750 watt power supply. You may be able to go a little bit lower if you really want to push it, but I wouldn't recommend it because these RTX 3000 GPUs, even if they stay within the power limit, they have sometimes some weird power spikes that may trip certain lower quality power supplies. And of course, if you plan to be baller, run RTX 3090s or God forbid even two 3090s in SLI, you're definitely going to need a platinum or really higher output type of power supply, maybe something like 1200 to 1500 watts, just to make sure that you're well within the realm of safety and you're not pushing any of this hardware much further than it can go. Even if theoretically you can run your system on a much lower spec power supply, I recommend definitely putting a lot of emphasis on getting a very high quality one. That's why I started off my recommendations and talking about a PC build specifically with the power supply. I think it's one of the most important components of your system. Of course, the GPU gets all the star power, but don't forget a nice high quality power supply. And in terms of availability, I don't think there are any real serious shortages or price increases with any of these units at the moment. So you pretty much can choose whichever one you want, and they seem to be fairly widely available. Another very important element of doing your PC build is actually your case. Even though it's not theoretically a performance part, it can play a huge role in airflow and in the eventual performance of your other components. That's why you want to get a case that's going to have adequate airflow as well as be a pleasure to build in. A lot of cases nowadays come with, for example, the glass. You can take it off a lot easier than having to put little thumb screws in them or something like that. Some of them even have, like, for example, I just did a build in the Be Quiet 802 case. You can press the little button in the back and the glass pops out. Fractal Design has something similar with the Define 7XL that I also did a build in. So you definitely want to look for these little niceties in these cases. cases, it just makes your building experience better. And not only that, the maintenance as you have to, clean your PC down the road. If you're the type like me that likes to open your PC a lot to maybe work on your cables or, add a hard drive or an SSD or something like that, you definitely want something that's not going to be all wonky to, put back on. You want something that's easy to work with, specifically the back. Don't we all hate when we do our cable management and the back still won't close? So I love cases that not only have a nice amount of space in the back, but you can also, push everything in without any issues. So now let's start to get into the meatier components of a PC build and what it means to buy one now. How about CPUs and their respective motherboards? Well, good news is that the environment for those are pretty fantastic. You can find good deals on both the Intel and AMD side. Now, traditionally over the last year, or ever since Ryzen 5000 came out, certainly that has gotten all of the attention, and for a long time they were sold out, but right now you can pretty easily find most of the Ryzen 5000 CPUs. You may still have a little bit of a hard time maybe with the 5950X or 5900. They definitely go out of stock a little bit more frequently, but you definitely have your pick of the 5600X and 5800X. Good news is I've seen a lot of these prices actually go down below MSRP as well. For example, even online and even Micro Center have been selling for under $400 the 5800X, not to mention the 5600X I've seen for as low as $279. Now, the benefit of these Ryzen 5000 CPUs, they're going to have great multi-core performance and very good clock speeds for single core performance and gaming performance. That's why they were in such high demand recently. But of course, don't overlook Intel because of a lot of the shifting dynamics between AMD and Intel. In some cases, Intel actually became a pretty good value proposition from especially the mid-range and the lower market. AMD, in terms of the mid-range and even the lower range, certainly hasn't had as many offerings as Intel. Basically, you're looking at that 5600X or one of the lesser processors that are coming out now, maybe something from last generation, the third generation. So if you're going to be more budget conscious, don't forget to take a look at some of these Intel CPUs. While the 11900K was pretty much a disaster and nobody really recommends it, as you go down the line, maybe the 11400 or even the 11600K, they can be actually a fairly sensible purchase, especially considering that these Intel Z590 motherboards, if you find one at a good price, they have some pretty good features like PCIe Generation 4, and some of them even have built-in Thunderbolt, like some of the Asus. The Hero actually has 2 built-in Thunderbolt ports. That's going to be important if you're doing content creation and things of that nature. But otherwise, take a look at Intel. Of course, AMD is always highly recommended. Their 5000 series is really done great. But don't forget to take a look at the offerings from Intel as well, as they definitely have some decent value propositions now that the dynamics between both companies are changing. And finally, what about the GPUs? For most people, this is going to be what has stopped their build dead in the tracks, for the last few months, ever since last year. The GPU situation, thankfully, is certainly improving. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to be able to go in any store or go online and actually find one for MSRP in stock, but it is happening a lot more frequently as of today than it was during the last 3 or 4 months and ever since the release. Now, a lot of this is the cause of ETH and mining really going down in popularity. Of course, it's not really low by any means. It's still, kicking along. But if you look at the graphs, ever since May, we had that huge peak, and it also coincides with the peak in GPU pricing. As of today, that certainly has gone down a considerable amount. A lot of people have sort of at least stopped buying GPUs for that purpose, therefore freeing up more GPUs for the gamer that is trying to build maybe your single gaming PC or your second PC. And something else to keep in mind that correlates with that are the Lite Hash rate GPUs that have been released, such as the 3070 Ti, 3080 Ti. That basically just means that their hash rate is going to be about half, therefore not making it as attractive of a purchase for somebody who wants to use it for mining, basically leaving it more for the gamers. You'll have to make a decision if these may have sort of a, some type of a value issue going forward when you try to resell it. That's going to be hard to tell right now. Who knows if the market eventually is going to be flooded with secondhand and used GPUs, but these certainly try to at least keep the focus on gamers and seeing them on shelves a little bit more frequently during the last few weeks, especially if you're lucky enough to have like a local Micro Center or even be on the EVGA. They just shifted everybody. At least I got the email that whatever you were waiting for before has been changed to LHR, the Lite Hash rate, meaning that those certainly will be more in production going forward. So you can actually find a GPU now a lot easier and faster than you could a few months ago. It's not ideal, it's not optimal, but at least it's getting closer and closer to MSRP. And even if you look online, a few months ago, back in May, an RTX 3070 was selling on eBay for $1,400 depending on the model. Now it's a lot closer to $1,000 or $900 on the secondhand market. So that definitely shows that those prices are at least decreasing. And as we move forward, it could probably decrease even more. And I would predict if this trend continues the way that it is, we may see MSRP pricing or at least close to it even on the secondhand market within the next few months. And of course, not to mention that MSRP does exist currently if you're lucky enough to be able to grab a GPU. That's going to depend on your location and where you are. If you're looking at things like Newegg and Amazon, those probably will be the last place to have these at MSRP because they're just so widely visited and a lot of people have access to them. The first places will be like local stores, like I mentioned, Micro Center. You may be able to get lucky with some smaller stores or even buying from somebody who's upgrading their GPU. So certainly, I think it is a good time to build your PC now if you find that GPU at MSRP, because MSRP, it's not going to go down any more than it is now. I just would hesitate to really overpay for any GPU right now, just because it looks like the prices are definitely going in the right direction, and you don't want to overpay for something that within a month or two is going to lose a significant amount of its value, and that's where it looks like that GPU pricing is currently headed. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that. I'll update some build recommendations based on how the GPU situation is like in a few months. So remember to subscribe, smash that like button. Let me know if you're planning a build now or if you feel a little bit better about actually doing a build, and I'll see you guys on the next video.